Hello, everybody. Hello, friends. Hello, hello. We're gonna have a discussion with Kristin about a very important topic. I was quite shocked when she told me about what was going on and exposed me this, and I thought it would be interesting that she share with us this because I'm sure a lot of you don't know, like I was not knowing, and it's very, very serious. And what to do? This is the thing, what to do. So I'm gonna see if Kristin is here, and I'm gonna invite her, and we're gonna have this chat together. No, I'm checking. So I'm gonna wait. I don't know why I cannot find her. I'm gonna wait that she's contacting me. I'm gonna try again. It's really weird. I put her name and it's not showing. So let's see. No, I have no request. Oh, Kristin, maybe you are here. Maybe you can request because I don't know why I cannot find your name when I tap your name. So if you can request like this, I can introduce you. This is so strange. Report pin, add as moderator, go live. Yes. So I don't know, Kristin.
Yay, we did
Yeah,
it. We did it. Nice.
yeah. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I was, is what I was telling in introduction, that I was quite shocked about what you exposed to me, and immediately thought it could be interesting that you tell us about that, because there are very few people who knows about that.
Which part? Because we talked about a few things. So if you
Part
guide me.
of the young girl, you know.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of start them off so they know what we were talking about? And then I'll just ask me anything and I'll leave me in and I'll share.
I wanted you to expose what happened. I think it's in Colombia. I don't remember the country because we spoke about so many countries that are losing their cultural heritage. And you told me about this one. And I was like, wow, how it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking.
It is.
Where the young girls, very young, are sent, for prostitution in a way by the parents. So it was that part. I forget the country.
Well, it's all of the countries actually.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So
it's about that. I wanted you to tell us what is going on there. Sure, it's all around the world, but how this is impacting also the cultural heritage of these countries, how this is a tremendous change. And what totally shocked me is that the parents are part of it.
Yeah.
This, how can you be in such a despair to make your children doing this?
Yeah, it's a very interesting. It's a very interesting conversation. So maybe I could introduce myself just a little bit so people know where I'm coming from. Would that be okay?
Yes. Sure.
So I have been in these developing countries for 11 and a half years now. I started out working in Haiti. So I created educational programs. Well, to start with, I went into Haiti because I was wanting to go in and teach and help some volunteers and some medical teams that had gone in. And when I had been there over time, it's extremely overwhelming when there's that much poverty and this much dysfunction in a country. And also, by the way, a lot of innovation, a lot of beautiful, artistic, family-based, just gorgeous things also. But anyway, over the course of being there for so many years, I realized that there was a massive issue of Restavik culture there, and these children who are child slaves, so they call them Restavik, and starting at very young ages. And so I was thinking in my head, I was going to different organizations, nonprofits, orphanages, and I realized that in the orphanages, 4 out of 5 of the kids had living parents. And so I got really this understanding of like, where are all these kids coming from? And I had already been involved in sex trafficking in the States and research and starting to form some things here. But wow, I just started getting experiences in a lot of the developing countries. And like you, Yasmina, as we travel into some of these areas in Bangladesh and in India and like the whole world, all of these places, this is a very common theme with a little bit different scenarios. And so I began teaching people, particularly women and then men, and then starting at age 9, how to understand their body and how to be in choice. My platform is really about creating liberation and choice through lots of different ways. And it worked really well. And we began to teach women that there's only 6 days out of a month they could get pregnant, and so that they wouldn't have to have 16 babies and every year send a child to an orphanage. So we have a lot of issues for the mother and also for the child with attachment disorders and things of that nature. So that's kind of a backdrop of my organization's name is Let's, and we're continually expanding into other countries. So we've now gone into South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Bangladesh, several other places. And then we have been in the Dominican Republic, Haiti. And so in 2 weeks, I'm getting ready to go into Colombia. And so anytime we go into a new country that I'm not living or from, we do a lot of research around cultural and religious and spiritual backgrounds and things so we can really honor and write the curriculum, kind of modify it for how we train instructors. So I've spent the last since last August, I've started researching South and Central America and what's going on there and how we can be, creating solutions with the people we work with. We're often approached by other nonprofits, and so we have inquiries come in saying, we need help, we have no funding. And so it's like, okay, so I created everything online. Now I'll go into what you and I were talking about. So as I was doing the research for South America, I realized it was very similar to every other country we're in, including the United States, where I am primarily focused here and our operations. And I realized that the sex trafficking industry is driven by a lot of factors. And one of it is there would be no sex trafficking if there weren't people buying people, right? So we need traffickers and we need buyers in order for there to be an industry. And it's a massive industry that's neck to neck or even surpassed guns and this type of thing. So it's a massive multi-billion dollar, hundreds of $1 billion industry. And so I'm always at the mindset of like, where's the lowest common denominator to try to make a difference? And I'm extremely passionate about this. I have 7 of my own children. I am a mother by nature. I just want to nurture and love people into their greatness. I want people to have access, really to have access to their genius. So as I'm over here interviewing people, and people are coming to us and saying, because we're approached and then we go look in, do we have the funding? Can we expand? What are the organizations on the ground that we can work with? And so I'm interviewing all of them. And so Colombia was just, the stories are ridiculous. And I'll tell you some of those. And then we started, we had an organization, we had an indigenous tribal leader come to us and say, we need your curriculum like right now. We don't have the funding. We want this learning center. We are in the process right now of trying to maintain our cultural our cultural significance is being lost in the last 2 generations. Like it's slowly slipping away. And so as we were talking, it's always interesting for me to find out what other people think is the problem or what the challenges are, and then to really dive in and ask a lot of questions. So as I was talking to this particular tribal elder, she is a women's leader over 15 communities in Peru. It's a very rural community. They don't have a lot of outside impact or influence. And she happened to hear of us through one of our volunteers that happened to be in Peru, and ran into her and saw the girls that she was working with who were quite young, who were mothers, and she was trying to give them a source of income. And so they were working on their bracelets and their designs and weaving and things. And she told me there are about 15,000 people in each of my communities. So she's got 5 and she's got these 15,000. And she said, there's about 200 to 300 young women, from young girls or children, I would call them, from 10 years old to 13. And out of those 300, 200 to 300, 60% of them are either pregnant or have already delivered babies, sometimes more than one. I was like, okay, so my American mind had to stop and pause and go, is this a cultural thing? Because I know when we worked in Bangladesh, they have a lot of child brides as soon as they start their period. It's not unacceptable to marry them. So I was like, is this normal culturally? And what are your thoughts behind this? And she's like, no, this is completely unacceptable. And she said, here's what, I had to keep asking questions for her to get me to the source of what was happening. And she was more concerned about, at first, she was more concerned about cultural loss. They were losing crops and seeds. They were losing their languages, their native languages, and they're losing their sacred arts, their weaving that told stories and was so important to them culturally. And so she's wanting to maintain that. But in the end, when you get to the bottom of it, it is that the families aren't making money through their crops anymore. And so they're sending kids into the city at a very young age, sometimes 12 years old unaccompanied, into the city to be able to find work. And I verified this 3 or 4 times because it's through a translator. I said, okay, I'm going to say it a different way because I want to make sure. Did you just say 10 to 13? Did you just say they're sending kids unaccompanied into the city at age 12? And they said, yes. And so what happens is in the city, when you're unsupervised, you're just trying to find a place to sleep and a place to eat. And so those are the breeding grounds of trafficking. And so the kids, these youth would get pregnant, and then they would come home. And can you imagine these young girls having babies without a skill set and having, like, it's not even conceivable to me as a an American, of course, but they come home, and then you've got generations of women raising babies, like great grandma. All the elders are now either watching babies or these more foster care or orphanage type situations coming up, which is a greater burden on the elders and on the community at large. And so then they would go back in the city and go to work, and then they might get pregnant again or not, which is why she was saying, if you could just teach them these 6 days that they can't get pregnant, at least they would not have babies.
Yeah.
And so that would be great, wouldn't it? I mean, it would just lessen the trauma. The poverty's not perpetuated. And so there's a lot there. But I know there's some people joining right now. So I just want to say one thing before I move forward. And that is, amidst this deepest pain and distortion of the most sacred thing that we value in life, it's painful. And sometimes, I know for me, for many years, I just put it in a little pocket over here because it was so painful that I didn't know what I could possibly do to make a difference. And I had my own kids, and I was like, well, what could happen to my kids? And then I went into my own pain and fears and drama. But as I worked through my own core traumas and my own core pain, and they turned into this very rich, because I have a background in my family of some of these stories of trafficking and deep pain. And as I worked through those, it became such a rich place for me to be able to help other people. And so while these things are really painful and they're just really hard to hear sometimes, I also wanted to let you know that there is
Yeah.
hope, that innately as humanity, we are born to be divine. And we're going to rise through this. And it's going to take all of us in our own personal lives
Mm.
becoming the, embodied in who we actually are, in our genius and these beautiful things. So some of it's hard to hear, but please open your heart and soften your mind as you listen, to be inspired of what we each can do, because I promise you, it's not just in these rural communities of Peru and Colombia and India. This is happening in our neighborhoods everywhere. And I don't want to scare, and I'm not coming from fear at all. It's where humanity's been, and we are rising out of it. So I'm extremely hopeful, and I'm very grounded in this, so I can stay. Took me a lot of years, by the way, because I had to go in and hold babies in my arms that had been trafficked, and it was overwhelming. And now I'm like, you know what? I believe that there's a plan for everybody, and that they in some way chose an
Yeah.
experience, right? So that's a whole different conversation, but
But it's quite interesting because we are in touch since quite a couple of years or even more. I don't remember.
Mhm.
And like by chance, has my Facebook account page, my Facebook page is hacked, and you are rarely clicking at that, and you saw something about my page, a post, and you clicked, and it was a link on pornography.
Yeah.
This that started that we've been in touch, and when you told me what you told me, I was like, I cannot believe we have to speak about that. We have to, because it's not by chance that my page is hacked and it's sent to pornography, and you are just, on this and telling me about that. So I say, okay, we do
There's
it. And
something in there. I
yeah,
know.
it's a synchronicity. And because, it's several times that my page has been hacked. And every time I wonder why, what is the bigger picture of that? I am, I took a subscription at Meta to be helped. It's disastrous. They are in touch with you directly, because to get Facebook, it's a nightmare. So I took a subscription. They got directly with me. And finally, they say everything is fine. They never checked my page. They never checked the email address that are not mine. They never checked anything. They say everything is not suspicious. So I wonder up to what point there is a kind of system that is okay with pornography. It's like, it's really frustrating. And this morning I spent again a couple of hours to write to them, because I received this email currently. It's me. Everything is fine. We checked, and everything, nothing suspicious. But it's not true.
No, it's not true.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So I wrote again, and now I've been more like, with big characters and surlining and all that. Please read. They don't even check the document I sent or anything that you sent me as well.
Yeah.
Nothing. So it's really we pass that, and I want to believe that the purpose is for a bigger, better thing. And like you, I'm positive on this issue. I think more and more things are coming to light. More and more people I know, and more people are knowing. Less and less this can be, effective, because people are going to be alert. They're going to see something. They can stop something. They can maybe have new idea going to come about resolve. I was a little bit shocked about the idea you told me about this guy,
I know.
about online thing, but it's like a less for, it's maybe less dangerous. So it's for that I wanted that
Do
we
you want me
speak about.
to share? You want me to share what it was?
Yeah.
I'm fascinated, because people in general don't like slavery. They don't like people having to do things against their will, right?
Sure.
Some of these youth across the world, they don't have a choice when they're trafficked. some of them are really grateful because they get food and shelter in
Yeah.
exchange for sex. And that is their dream come true when you live in a favela or you're living in a comuna, or right, like that's a dream come true. And I know in Haiti, a lot of our young women, we had 7 pregnancies on one soccer team when we came in, like a youth group, and 7 of these girls are pregnant. And it was but they're grateful because the men they're sleeping with are allowing them to go to school, putting clothes on their back and feeding them, and they're the only one in their family that might have that opportunity. And so, you know, they're the hope of the family. So like, it's hard to understand it from our minds sometimes, but the ones who this is not a choice, they don't want to be in these situations, they're being oftentimes abused, not just sexually, but they're being abused. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of drugging. There's a lot of these things. It's pretty wild. So the idea of this person that I was talking to, it actually wasn't my friend's idea. It was a friend of his. And he was like, I know what Les is doing and it's really powerful, but it takes time, right, to get to the people. And I was like, yes, and automation. And there's a lot of things that we can do to expedite that with funding. But he's like, well, my friend said, what if we just build housing, like apartment complexes for the girls out on the street? Well, one, you'd have to get them away from their trafficker,
Yeah.
right? Or their pimp, which is not an easy thing because that's their paycheck. But he said, like, what if we could rescue them and put them in these housing, and then they could still do the sex trade because that's what they know, it's what they've been doing, and we'll just set them up with an online platform. And so at least they're off the street and they're not getting hurt, and they're not actually having to physically do these acts, but they're still getting paid. And so he was like, I don't know if I agree with that. It doesn't solve the problem, but I'm kind of like, well, maybe that could work. So I wonder, you know, it's like, should we invest in that? And so that was what I was telling you.
Yeah.
And I would like to hear, like, have your discussion around that and maybe what your viewers are thinking, because like, you can go both ways. Sure, it sounds like a much better idea, but I can tell you what my response was. But if you want to share anything before that.
Yeah, because me, I was like, wow, I would never think about something like that. So me see this online pornography differently, because maybe I don't excuse that at all. You know, I'm not at
Right.
all in this thing,
I mean,
but
yeah.
maybe there is less danger for these women.
Yeah, sure.
No, to be beaten, to be drugged, to be abused violently, and all. It's awful. So maybe there is a kind of protection in that for them.
There might be, but let's think about this for a minute. And I can say this because I've been so long on the ground in these developing situations. Is somebody who's in a trafficking situation, at least we can't blanket statement this. This is not, we can't be too general because there's so many unique circumstances. However, there's a lot of emotional trauma for them to be in a traffic situation. Where did the family unit dissolve? Where's the parents? How did this happen? Just like in Peru, you were saying, like, how does a parent send their child into the city? Because there's a level of desperation. There's a level of hope. There's a level that, you know, like, that there's a better life that they could provide than just being here where nothing is happening. So I'm very, very compassionate around all sides of this story. But if you took a woman off of the street, and we can see this statistically, when people are rescued, imagine that they need to go through a restoration process. There's a lot of psychological, mental, all types of work that needs to be done to help a person heal from this. So in the United States, there's not enough beds for even a fraction, a very itty bitty small percentage of these kids who are rescued. There's nowhere to put them. And what happens is, think of this as a circle rather than like, you have prevention, you have rescue, and then you have restoration. And it doesn't end at restoration, because the majority of these kids end up back on the street, and then we're back to rescue and prevent it, you know. So this is a circle. So I don't know that the solution is ultimately just taking them off the street and giving them another job, because they don't have the emotional maturity or skill set oftentimes to even know what to do. There needs to be other mechanisms in place. And his idea did build into it that, well, what if we also provided online education so that while they're also doing this, we could put them through school. So they're just, it's a, you would think that would be a simple answer, but it's actually not. There's a lot more dynamics underneath. There's a lot of drug addiction. There's a lot of pain and trauma and unresolved things that need to be dealt with for people to know how to function. It wouldn't be like me or like somebody from the States. We're imagining that somebody just gets in a bad position, like they're homeless and then they have to provide, or and that they could go to school or they could do this while having this safer environment for the I don't know, sexting and the online sex pornography industry. And there are some people who actually really love that, and that's their job. They just get on and they have a big following, and those are people making choices. But in this circumstance, I think there's a lot more to it. But here's my answer. First off, with AI and the deep fakes now, they don't need real humans anymore to do this work. So first off, if they don't already have a following, it's probably, reasonable to assume that AI, deep fakes, and pornography, which is already happening, is probably going to we're not going to need to pay people to do that in the same way. It'll be much cheaper having AI do that role. But the second one that I think is the most important thing is that it doesn't solve the problem. It actually makes it just as bad or worse, because we know that with convicted traffickers, 100% of convicted traffickers started their trafficking journey through pornography. And so we're not solving the pornography issue of why there are people paying to have sex or paying people to have relationships online this way. So usually in pornography, by 8 to 10 years old is the first exposure for young people, and it gets earlier the more that kids have phones in their hand. And you can't help it. Just look at that. I was thinking when I was just going through your not even your Facebook, although I looked later and those stories are in your Facebook. But just, flipping through mom's phone or something, and all of a sudden the stories pop up and it's like, click more. And then all of a sudden the naked woman's there inviting you to have sex and please come be with me. And it was just like very, very like, no, it wasn't a soft entry. It was like, I'm naked. It's right here. And so imagine these younger children where their brains are developing right now. And so the dopamine levels at a very young age get very imbalanced, and brain chemistry and brain development is impacted. So 8 to 10 years old is really important. And then as you move from 10 to 12 and hormones are changing through puberty, by the time they get to 12, 14 years old, there's significant amount of trauma to the brain and a lack of development or imbalance of development. So we see in the trafficking industry, you see people who are being groomed as traffickers as early in their junior high and high school who are already trafficking the girls in their school. So that's not fun to hear, but it is happening and it's not uncommon. So it's an interesting thing. So when I was thinking about like, what if we could be a little more creative? I like the idea that people are thinking of solutions. I think that's really great. And so, but I think there's other things that we could invest in that have a deeper impact that could create the actual solution that is the start of the problem, which begins much earlier in the home, and people having jobs and people preserving their cultures and their family values and their cultural values and things that, like, where's the root system? When you have this several generations now of us, the last few, and we have phones in our hand, like my grandchildren, they know how, it's like they're born out of the womb knowing how to operate, interface with a cell phone. And that's what their parents are doing while they're in the womb. It's what their parents are doing. It's just normal. It's how we live today. So there's a detachment and people turning to a device or outside of themselves for guidance, and their brains are like scroll, scroll, scroll. Like you got like a shorter and shorter attention span rather than this very sacred space of in the pause and knowing your operating system and knowing how to hear inside yourself that inner wisdom. And so it's an issue everywhere, but oh my gosh, when you start looking at the dysfunction within the pornography industry and the pain that it's causing, and then it's driving people to have sexual appetites that are not even normal. Like, and especially now as we have AI and hard porn, like it ruins other relationships because it's just not realistic for anybody.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
mm,
So it's really complex when you think about that, and but I'm with hope that some young people gonna find solution. It can come from the young people. I want to see the good side of AI. You know, I think there is a side that can be inspiring. I see this in architecture right now. It's really it's too much also in photography, but it's inspiring. It's about creating beauty, and for me, beauty is the expression of the divine. How can we reinstill in these young women and men the meaning of divine being that they are? How can we to have this mystery of who we are, to make them realizing how it is wonderful to be a human being, you know, and that sexuality can be really beautiful, and it's something I think of, and I don't see myself, I don't see a really solution other than speaking simply about
mm,
the of the act that create a human being. You know, it's fantastic when you think about it's such a mystery, and it's for me it's always blow my mind since I get my son very young, and I was already in that mindset of the beauty of the mystery.
mm-hmm.
It's fascinating, the life that is coming from these tiny cells, from this act, and growing inside of us, and a new being is there in 9 months. It's short, 9 months. It's
Amazing.
it's really amazing. It's really amazing. So how it could be possible to give back a sense of this beauty to at a young age? I was thinking of that because this summer I'm gonna go to Nepal, to the orphanage that I'm supporting,
Mm-hmm.
to children, maybe some that I met in 2018. They're grown and are still there, and I wanted to see with Lila, who is founder of the orphanage, orphan himself. He was orphan himself, and he started with his wife many years ago the orphanage because they found in the street a little girl, 7 years old, that has been abused sexually in very bad shape, and this break their heart, and they started like that.
Yeah.
And at one point, some years ago, they have 150 children that they rescue from the street, and some of them have their parents. Now they have 30. With the crisis, it's very difficult to take care of the children.
Yeah.
They lost a lot of donors during the sanitary crisis, and it's very hard because they give to them an education until they find work and be on their own, so they keep them adult. And but it's really wonderful. I'm amazed about the dedication they have to raise these children like that, and how they are well. I don't want to say protected, but surrounded, you know. And
Yeah.
all of them, was the feeling I had when I was there. It's like a big family. The older take care of the little one. They are like all together, and it's really nice. So I'm quite excited go and to visit and see. And I was thinking about what kind of program they have about sexuality, about how do they work on that, how do they explain, inform. It's important to give information, proper information, to make it like something that is beautiful and not something to hide, to be ashamed of, you know. And it's natural. It's natural to have pleasure with sex. There is nothing wrong with that. And desire is something beautiful. From desire is life is coming. So, but how we can bring this to a level of sacred, of the divine, that are we are expression, direct expression of the divine, and how can we be manifesting that? So I think a lot about that, but I don't know how to express it very well. It's turning in my head what it's possible to do. And when you contacted me some years ago and you were telling me what you were doing, I said, oh, some people are doing things, you know, and it's for that I thought it could be interesting to introduce also the organization you are, you know, you created and what you do, and for people to be able to connect and to contact you about that, and maybe to help as well. Because, for example, through this virtual meeting that we have, that is not virtual in a way, because it's fantastic. I always say the technology we created really helps be more and more in touch, more and more informed, more and more spreading things. And some years ago, like 2 years, almost 3 years ago, by just being online, this woman who is part of an organization helped the orphanage to get a grant. So everything is possible.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. So how can we be present using the tools we have, the technology we have, to just be there and make know that we are there? Because often we don't know. Me, I didn't know what you told me about this thing and the cultural issue and all that. And it makes so much sense. So I think it's important to expose ourselves in what we do, and for you to have exposure to know that this exists and how people can eventually connect and develop and contribute or share simply. So it's for that I wanted to have this this discussion, because it's beyond just our discussion, you know, and it's beyond also what you do. It's how can we have a bigger impact on that? How can we just simply, we don't have to go on a battlefield, and just by witnessing, by sharing, by informing, spreading, I think we have the tool for that. So bummed that my Facebook is not, you know, available right now, and I have people saying, "Oh, I don't know if it's you, but I'm surprised that you post that." But you know, the last time I've been hacked, the people were posting engines, terrible things to skin alive animals in the farm industry, animal, you know, farming industry and thing. It was awful. I had reports that are still on my files that I've been reported for cruelty, and it's not me.
I know that. Well, and that's a different conversation, is that for me, there's almost no way to report it without it looking like it's you. We can't, they just need to put one button that says this account has been hacked.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's by design.
Yeah.
There's no way it's not by design.
And it's really badly done, because it's not the account. My account is okay. It's my page. My account, I have the maximum 5,000 followers. I don't know how many subscribers, but the page, the business page, has 300,000. And it's this one that is hacked because they have more exposure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't, they've made it very challenging, but you asked us several really good questions in there, and I hope everybody will take the time to ponder those, because we will be inspired. And you asked how you were talking about AI and phones and technology, and how do we reestablish like this connection with each other when we're online so much, because we need to evolve. This is our history,
Sure.
and it is our future, and evolution is happening with AI very, very quickly. And how do we use these beautiful tools for creativity? And I've said for many years that technology is the training wheels of consciousness, and AI is that. We are far more capable than we realize, and we're activating parts of us that are tapped into really supernatural abilities even more and more.
Wow.
So the key is, if anybody wants to hear me talk about it, I've actually not been on social channels for a while, just because I don't know, I'm creating all the time, and I'm just not on. So you're not going to LinkedIn, I have a bio or something. I haven't been active in my social media on Instagram very often, but if you want to hear from me, just reach out and I will talk to you guys. I'll probably just do a Facebook or an Instagram live so that it's there, or a story. But the difference between artificial intelligence and divine intelligence. And this is the challenge, is when people have forgotten who they are and they believe they're separate from each other and from the divine and from the universe, then this separation causes a fear, and we operate out of fear. But when we come from a space of love and we remember who we are, and we have access to intelligence that's growing constantly around us, then we begin to use AI and technology as a tool rather than it controlling us. And so there's a huge discussion around use the tools, use them to be an expression of goodness and truth. And if we can teach ourselves to do that and model that, our children are going to follow, our grandchildren are going to follow and have their own choices. But that's for me, is like, how do we end this? Is we innately are good creation, right? Creation is good innately. So it's harder for us to be in distortion than it is to actually be in alignment. So that's my goal. And in my private work with private clients, that's the whole purpose, is to help people find and align and access and embody these things. And then it's about legacy creation from there. And pure expression of divine truth feels so good. And the physical body heals, the spiritual, mental, all of those things begin to support a life that people want to live and a planet that people want to live on. And I feel like we're at a crossroads in so many ways right now. Maybe every generation says this, but I think we can all agree that the rapid change of technology and everything in our world, we are in a really unique place.
Sure.
So how do we prepare for that, so that the people who are just wanting to be so low vibrating over here begin to be living in a completely different reality, and that we continue to invite people in and see people in love, but come up with some solutions. It is actually not that complicated. It's just a mass agreement. What are we going into agreement with? So I feel like we start with the one, and we start with our family unit, and then we look at how can I use my pain. My pain has become my catalyst to help other people. Like core wounding becomes core healing, becomes our vocation. It becomes the way we interact with each other, and it becomes our service to and give back. And so I'm on a mission to help individuals get to that place. And then the organizations like Let's that I founded, it's an expression of my own personal wounding that have turned into something that is impacting hundreds of thousands of people in a way that's not actually that complicated when you ask the right questions. So please just ask the right questions of how this feels to you and what calls to you, and what can you do in your own life, and how can you help in your own communities. If you have the finances, help the people who are out there on the ground doing this, like these organizations in India. And like are they in India, or are they in where in Nepal? Yeah. So like the Nepal story, we need thousands upon thousands of people like that right now in our world to pull these children in. They can't take all the Nepalese children, right? They can't.
Sure.
Just one organization's not going to cover. We need all of us doing something, but without funding, we can't get as far as we'd like. And this stress, can you imagine sacrificing everything in your life to collect a couple hundred kids and take care of them and make sure they're educated. And I mean, I'm mother 7. I can't imagine mothering 150 kids. But imagine that. And on top of that, every day they have to worry about shutting the program down. If they went from 150 down to 60 kids or 30 kids, where are all those kids going?
Yeah. And what did happen? That slowly it has been the crisis that really destroy a lot. 20 has been a nightmare for
many.
The good thing is that I started the Charles in 2018, and I was going to quit, but with the confinement, I started to do. I felt to speak because I was at home. I was not really confined. I was quite a little bit outside all the time, but I say, okay, now I felt it's time to speak. That something that my followers were asking me since a long time. So I started that, and I had the shows, and they started to ask me where to buy, and I say, oh, and so I contacted the maker. I say, I wanted to stop, but I'm going to continue. And in fact, it has been really, really good. And I could support, I was one of the only one to support the orphanage with the shawl sales and the stipend of my followers buying the shawls, and it really, really helped them to go through, because in Nepal, they have been very much affected. They were totally unauthorized to work, and it's kind of poor country, and if they don't work, they don't have income. So it has been really disastrous, and lost almost all the donors, almost all of them. So this has been really a work of all of us together by that phone.
Yeah.
So it's, I say, at the unconscious collective, at the era that we are, we created that tool. As divine being, we created that tool. We manifested, we created in the material world to use it, and to use it for our evolution. And I want to see this as a beautiful evolution. We are mutant. Every single day we are mutating.
We are.
Every day we are mutants. So we go towards human species that's going to be different. Different way to use the mind in a positive way, to discovering that we create with our way of thinking, and that we are creators as the divine, because we are the divine. We are expression, each of us, we are a drop, an expression of that. How can we express that divine as much, as more beautiful as we can in our daily life? It can be by a smile in the street to someone, simply. And that, having this way to be open and welcoming. And I must say, in this country, in the US, people are quite like that. They are smiling at you in the street. They are saying hi. It's something for me when I came 25 years almost in the US that was like so pleasant to me. And it's what I like here. People are welcoming. They are smiling to you. They see you a little bit with a map. You don't know. They come. Do you need help? Oh, yeah. And your hair, fantastic. What is your hairdresser? I know it's natural. Oh, it's possible. And this started, I was one of the white hair. So this was intriguing, to people. I thought it was a color that was done. And they were stopping me in the street in New York. And in fact, there is communication about something that seems futile, but there are no futilities. Little things, an appreciation. Oh, I love the color of your lipstick. Or, just, it seems stupid, but it's not. It's a way to engage a communication, even if it's 10 seconds, an exchange of, as I said, a smile to someone in the street. This creates an egregore that is lighter, that is more beautiful and expanding more in a beautiful way, spreading from one to another one. And it doesn't cost anything. It's free.
Exactly.
So it's that. what can we, by sharing this discussion, maybe some people are going to be inspired to have an idea that you and I don't have, you know, about these situations. What it's possible to do to be like that, frankly, I don't know. At a big scale, I don't know. Like you said, it's just around us.
It's the activation of our individual genius. Like it's when we embody and we express, then it's a ripple effect. I'm so convinced by that. Like we just have to get the 100th monkey with people awakening more and more and being truly understanding presence.
Yeah.
If you're smiling at somebody, you're exchanging intelligence and it expands. You know what I mean? And it's just so simple. I really believe the currency of the future is going to be the action, the creativity and innovation and love and that kind of thing. I know it sounds really esoteric and that sounds so great, but it's actually when you get into it, you're like, oh, it's actually tangible.
Yeah.
It's tangible. Love is a being.
Because what else? When you think about it, what else? What else? Life is passing. Everybody, the only sure thing we know is we're gonna die. So what else than spreading beauty and love around us?
Exactly.
Than wanting that people feels good, that they be beautiful, that, you know, what else? It's for me, I don't see anything else healthy. And all this is by kindness, tenderness, because we create, this is on a frequency that is lighter and easier even for the body to vibrate on.
Yeah, it's our natural state, I would say.
Yeah. Look at a baby that is smiling and it's like, you know, and moving, happy and smiling to you, even if he's a few weeks old, and, you know, it's just there. So it's the presence, like you said. How can we be present? How can we be? And I saw my granddaughter was here for a couple of weeks. We've been very busy, very, very busy. But it's true, they live with a cell phone. They live with it, they exchange with that. She was with her friend in France, in Corsica, always exchanging and showing and look, and the small animals that are coming there. It's great. It's a great tool to share things around, you know.
For sure.
Yeah, for me, and my friend astrologer 35 years ago told me, a new technology gonna revolutionize your life. He's an engineer as well. And I always think of him. He passed away some years ago, and I always think of Jean-Paul, and I was like, my goodness, if you knew at what point.
Yeah.
So this is the beauty of it. We create AI as well. How gonna we use it in a way to assist us, to be inspirational, to, you know, I never been on ChatGPT. I've been last evening to test a little bit how it is. And I say, can you put a sentence about love and beauty? And I got a sentence that resumes so beautifully what is love and beauty. I forgot about it. I did not write it. But I say, wow, this is great. This can inspire people to write also differently, to express that they don't know how to express with words. They go on this thing. They put the keywords that are important for them. I would love to express that, how I can do that. And it's things are coming and it resonates with you and you can spread that, because for me, words are difficult to come. It's difficult, especially English is not my, you know, original language, but
yeah,
it could help, really help to someone to express what they want to express, and they are not really easy for them. It's not really easy for them with words. So I think it's a beautiful thing. Now now you have to personalize it. When you have this thing writing, you have to pause and to be present to that sentence and take maybe work around it a little bit, or something that can make more sense to make it personal. Because I guess if you put the same thing inside the same keyword, you're going to get the same thing. So after, it's the problem is you can become not personal. But it's I think it's a nice tool.
It's a good analogy for life, actually. I have learned to write GPTs, and I've learned about the industry because I really, at first I was like, this is, no, I don't want it. And then it's like, embrace it, honey, because it's not going anywhere. So I started learning and taking classes, and the prompt engineer, the one who's writing the sentence, if you learn to create, there's a whole new field called prompt engineering. And if you write a 450 word prompt, when you tell it exactly who it is and what tone you want it to take and the role, that's where it becomes really a co-creation. And we use it maybe for outlines, but we're still learning, we're still expressing, but it's a different kind. In what you put in is what you get out, and that's the same thing with life. And so learning how to be a prompt engineer in your own life and taking charge of, or you're just going to get garbage in and garbage out, and it's not going to feel good. And that's what I don't like, that part on social media now, where it's like I can spot a chat GPT conversation versus somebody who's authentically writing something. But anyway, I think it's a great tool, but we need to make sure that our prompts coming into our own life are on purpose and with presence, and what's going to come out is just organic. And so, yeah, I'm excited about the new technology, and I'm also wanting to make sure that we do have divine intelligence running it rather than just our head and superficiality and just, thoughtlessness going into it, wanting it to solve or do something for us rather than co-creating something.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, that was a fun conversation.
Yeah, it was. So I'm gonna post this video on my page, but also on YouTube. It's gonna be on YouTube, so you can send me links about the organization and everything. I'm gonna put in the text and in the information side, and yeah, voila.
I would like it. Well, the last thing I wanted to share is, because of blockchain technology and digital currency, the smart, the DAO and smart contracts, there is a level of possibility for the nonprofit sector and earning money that we can exponentially increase, like 48x times what normally would come in through a normal donation. And so I think that's one of the things I'm teaching other nonprofits is, how can we be sovereign, just not in our own lives, but actually in everything we're doing, so that the people who are trying to serve in this capacity have the income. The majority of us work hours and hours and hours, and we never get paid anything because it's a heart project. But what if we could help each organization find ways that it's not going to be a challenge to increase the impact that they're having? So I've been working on that for quite some time, and I think that's another, we don't need to have that conversation here, but I just wanted people to know that there are ways, because of digital currency now and instant transfers of things, that really make it easy to support nonprofits in unique ways. So if anybody's interested in kind of unique ways of creating impact for themselves or others, just reach out to me privately, because I don't want to really talk about it like here, but
yeah,
there's a lot we can do. There really is a lot we can do. And so the technology in that, it is completely changing the way that, say, we operated with fiat currency. It's very exciting.
Oh,
and I'm not talking about Bitcoin investments or something like that. That is another way, but they're just, people get really creative with these new technologies and crowdfunding and the way that we can maximize donations and resources in that way. So it's fun.
Okay.
Okay.
Great, Kristin.
All right. Thanks so much for visiting. I really appreciate you and not getting offended. I was almost afraid to send you that text. I'm like, surely she does not do that. I know her channel well enough. I've met you enough time, talked to you enough times. I'm like, that is so not her style. Like, this is.
Yeah, it's some people knows immediately when it's
Yeah, I was like, it's not
some
her.
people
No.
are almost offended. Why you put that and that? They don't realize the change in my page,
Have you looked at your page? Like recently, I'm on your page and I'm like, that is so not what Yasmina even posts about. Like,
Yeah,
it's not even anything to do with you.
yeah. It's nothing to do, and it's like, what is that? It's like, so I don't know, this Facebook thing, Meta, they are really it's really, really frustrating, really frustrating. And after last time I posted a thing that I am act after you have all the people that want to help you for money, I guess even the hackers of the page and all that, and it's a disaster, really a disaster.
Yeah, I know. Well, okay, so maybe since we had this conversation, that was the reason.
Yes,
And now it's going to magnify good and it's all going to get cleaned up starting
yes.
right now.
Thank you, Kirsty.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, so I'm gonna post this in a couple of days, time to load, because sometimes it's not loading, so I have to wait and go the day after and all that.
Yeah,
And
no worries.
please send me the link with your organization. You take also people in private session?
I do. We
So
do private retreats and private session and
yeah,
my joy, so much joy.
yeah. So this also, it's like me, I started to do, I call this like attentive listening session.
Yeah.
Where someone has to a topic they want to, speak about, that's often they never spoke to anyone. And because I always had this thing that I was surprised, people comes to me and tell me their intimate thing or secrets. But since I'm young, so I propose this because I have so many, many, many messages where I spend hours answering messages, and now I can't. I have a life as well. So I propose that, and I did some session quite very interesting
Really fun.
in the synchronicities of people, in fact, being on the same topic without knowing each of them. Quite interesting.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Well, we're all drawn to this magnetics that we're all a part of draws us to each other.
Yeah. So I say, oh, I hear that yesterday and today. She thought that also. Wow.
No, that is so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Very much so. All right, my friend, I'll talk to you soon. Mwah.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye. So as I said, I'm going to post this. And like this, you can listen. If you took this in the middle, you can listen to the whole conversation. And I'm going to post this on YouTube as well. So I don't know how it works, the translation, but maybe you can activate translators there. And because it was quite difficult to do it in French. So thank you very much to all of you. And at soon.